What's going on, guys? I'm Tommy Nichols, Blue Collar Boys. Hope you all having a fantastic day. Got a special guest, candidate Skip Orth, Florida House 3. Been meaning to sit up and interview with him for a while now. A lot of issues came up, but here we are. We finally got it, and we're going to have a great interview. How you doing, Skip?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Doing great, finally.
Good. I'm glad we finally got together.
Absolutely, man.
Yeah, we've been trying for a while.
Yeah, we're going to kill this interview right now, though.
All right, let's do it.
You know how it is, guys. We jump right into it. So, first part, as always, are the personal questions.
Okay.
Question 1, who are you?
I am Skip Orth. I am running for State Representative District 3. Just a little background about myself. My wife, Teresa, and I have been married since 1984. Lived here in Santa Rosa County since 1985. We've raised 6 kids here.
Oh,
and
wow.
so we are almost lifelong residents.
Absolutely. Been here as long as I've been born. 36.
Yeah.
I was born in 85.
Okay. All right.
Question 2, what do you / did you do for a living, and why did you choose the profession you're in?
Okay, well, I am the owner of Father and Son Pest and Lawn Solutions, and I actually got into the lawn care industry back in the mid-'80s when I worked for my father-in-law in his pest control business, and I've been in the business ever since.
Okay, awesome. And a quick rundown on how the name came to be.
Well, actually, Father and Son Pest and Lawn Solutions was actually started back in 2003 as Father and Son Landscape Maintenance. How that started was, at the time, my wife and I were homeschooling our children. Buddy is my oldest son, and at the time, he was 13 years old, and very bright child, but his ADD just would not allow him to sit still and do seat work.
Right.
Which was driving him crazy, driving my wife crazy, and they were just not having a good time.
Yeah.
So what I suggested was, why don't he and I start a father and son lawn maintenance business, and I can use the business as a teaching platform and to homeschool him, which is what we did. So we started the business. I used things like balancing the checkbook and P&L statements for math.
Right.
As we drove around, we listened to books on history and classic literature for that part of the teaching. We used the newspaper for current events, history, geopolitical stuff. And we did that for about 4 years, and it worked out really well.
Wow, that's something I would have never thought of right there, and that's very unique right there, man. I like that.
Thank you. Thank you.
How did this job help prepare you for your role in government you're seeking?
That's a great question. So just to give you a little rundown, we started in 2003. Buddy decided after he graduated that he wanted to go out and try something different. So in 2008, he left and joined the Army.
Okay.
And I continued to run the business and hire young men who I dubbed my substitute sons, and ran the business for a while. And my vision at the time was to build the business into a one-stop shop, full-service landscape company. Well, that just didn't work out for me. So in 2012, I found myself in a situation where the business almost failed. And I realized that I needed to reinvent myself. I needed to restructure the business, which I did at the time. And so we started to focus specifically on solving lawn problems and marketing ourselves as lawn experts, which after being in the business for 10, 20 years at that time, I knew a lot about lawns.
Right.
So at the time, in 2012, I had 1 employee. It is now 2020. 10 years later, I have 50 employees.
Oh, wow.
So that worked out really well. So how that prepared me for this position was I had to figure out everything that I had to do to grow the business from 1 employee to where I am now, 50 employees, manage it and run it, and that is great experience right there.
Absolutely. And you did the impossible. You ran a successful small business right there and grew it. So, bravo.
Well, thank you.
What is your biggest career and life accomplishment?
What is my biggest career? I would say the accomplishment of father and son pest and lawn solutions. Again, growing a business from one employee to 50 there's a lot of transition. When I don't know if you've ever heard of the book The E-Myth. By Michael Gerber. It was very popular back in the 1990s, but basically what the premise of the book was that when you take a person who's good at a skill like a plumber or electrician, or in my case a yard guy, it's very hard for them to transition out of being a technician into being actually a business owner. And it talks about the difference between working in your business and working on your business.
Okay.
So there's a big transition there. A whole different skill set is required for running a business versus actually just going out and doing the work. So I feel actually quite proud that I was able to make that transition, because not very many people are able to do that, because like I said, it's a whole different skill set that's required to run a business rather than just go out and do the work.
Right.
So I feel quite proud of that accomplishment.
Absolutely. And like I was saying, that is a heck of an accomplishment right there. Okay, what was your biggest issue you have faced in life or business?
I'll actually give you two, and these have actually been life-changing circumstances for me.
Okay.
The first one I'll talk about is August 7th, 1999. Our 7-year-old son drowned in a swimming pool accident. That was probably the hardest thing that we ever walked through, but my wife and I successfully navigated that. And just for anybody listening to this, if you ever or have ever experienced anything like that, I am open to talk to anybody that has experienced tragedy or trauma in that regard. I know what it's like, and I'm open to talk to anybody at any time if you need to talk. So we walked through that successfully. And that was the one thing. The other thing was, and I mentioned this just a few minutes ago, in 2012, my business, as a matter of fact, my wife had a Facebook memory come up last week. It was May 16th, 2012. She made a post thanking all of my employees for all of their hard work and effort, because on that day I had to lay them all off. That event and the subsequent rebuilding of my business was, again, the second most difficult thing that I ever walked through in life or in business. The first event, the loss of our son, that was an acute event. It happened all at once, and it was a lot of stress all at one time, and then eventually we worked through it. The rebuilding of my business was more of a chronic type stress, where it was for several years I had to go through the rebuilding process, and it was just daily grinding through the process of rebuilding. But we finally got there, and we are where we are today.
Awesome. Speaking of your family, tell us a little bit about your family.
Okay. Well, my wife, Teresa, and I were married back in 1984. We moved to Navarre in 1985 and bought our first lot here back when land was a lot cheaper than it is now.
Right.
We cleared our land by hand with chainsaws and axes together. Those are fond memories. And at the time we had a mobile home, and we moved it out here on to our lot in Navarre, and from then we just built from there. I have 6 children. The youngest of whom is 21. He's in the Marine Corps, been in for 3 years now.
Awesome.
And then I have my daughter. I have 2 daughters. They both live out in California. One is a social worker, and the other one is at home expecting our first grandchild.
Oh, awesome.
In December. So
Congratulations, man.
yeah, we are excited about that.
Absolutely.
We've been waiting a long time.
Hey.
And so I have a middle son. He is a manager at Texas Roadhouse up in Noonan, Georgia. And then my oldest son, Buddy, works for me still. He's our sales manager here at Father and Son.
Awesome. Awesome. So you literally kept it all in the family. That's for
Absolutely,
sure. That's
yeah.
good stuff. What's your favorite thing about this area?
My favorite thing about this area, I love the people. I love the Southern hospitality.
Absolutely.
I am originally from Iowa, the Midwest. Now, people are friendly up there too, but there's just something. I moved down here when I was a teenager, and I was immediately just impacted by the Southern hospitality, people inviting us over for dinner, Sunday dinner, all of that stuff. I just love it. Yeah.
It's certainly a real thing. People,
It is.
if you've never been to the South, everybody talks about the Southern hospitality.
And you wave at everybody,
Yep.
whether you know them or not, and smile. I've talked to people that live down south or up north, and they say, "Oh, you never smile at anybody because they think that something's up or whatever." I'd probably get in big trouble if I was.
Yeah, me and you both. Because I'm like you, like you said, the way everybody I pass, I wave at and smile, and they think, what the heck is this guy's problem?
I know.
What do you do for fun, Skip?
Actually, one of my favorite hobbies is just working out. I have a gym at home, and I hit the gym probably 3, 4, 5 times a week, and that's my release. That's my stress release.
Absolutely.
And I love working out.
That's a good one right there.
Yeah.
All right, part 2. And that's where we get into the meat and potatoes, the political questions. Now, guys, these are your questions. This is what I've always said. You give me the questions, I ask them. And this is yours. Why are you running now?
That's a very good question. So, to be very honest with you, 6-8 months ago, this wasn't even on my radar. Back around January, a friend of mine who is politically active approached me, and I kind of knew what he wanted to talk to me about, but I didn't think I was interested. But I said, well, what the heck, I'll sit down and hear him out, see what he has to say. And I met for lunch, met him and two of his partners for lunch, and they presented to me the opportunity to run for state representative. And to be honest with you, the more they explained it to me, the more it was like my eyes were open, and it just really seemed like it fit me to where my life, for where my life is now.
Right.
Because my kids are grown, they're out of the house. My business is at a place where it requires very little of my time. I've lived in this community for the past 30, some odd years, and this community has helped me build a business. It's helped me build a church. It's helped me build a nonprofit organization, which I don't know if you want to talk about later.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
It's helped me it's helped me become successful. That's
Right.
what it's done, and my kids, the school system. So as they were talking, it just seemed to make sense to me that this was a great opportunity for me to give back to the community. So that's why I'm running right there.
And there's the answer right there. You want to give back to the
I
community.
want to give back to the community.
Awesome. Who were some of your political influences that you admire?
Well, when I was 18, I registered to vote as a Republican, been a Republican ever since. Voted for every Republican president since then. And the very first Republican I voted for was Ronald Reagan. I've read his biography. I love the way he was an influencer.
Right.
Him and my other political heroes, Abraham Lincoln. I love Abraham Lincoln. I've read several books on Abraham Lincoln, and the thing that strikes me so much about Abraham Lincoln is the way he was able to manage the country under such stressful circumstances and managed to bring it back together. And he did it very quietly. He wasn't a loud person. No. The last book I read about him, they kept using the same word over and over, magnanimous. And people, what that means is basically he doesn't take a lot of credit for himself. People would attack him, he wouldn't attack back. All he would do was focus on the problem. And I'll give you an example. Salmon Chase was in his cabinet, and Salmon Chase was known to want to undermine the president, President Lincoln. However, later on in his administration, President Lincoln appointed him as Chief Justice of the Supreme Court simply because he said he was the best man for the job. He didn't take into consideration anything in the past that Chase had done to undermine him. He saw Chase as the best man for the position, and that's where he placed him. So things like that. Right. That's what makes a great political leader.
Absolutely. What is the biggest issue for Northwest Florida, in your opinion, at this time? Why is it the biggest issue, and how would you fix it?
Okay, so I think it's kind of obvious to everyone. The biggest issue that we have in Northwest Florida right now is our rapid growth and infrastructure keeping up with that rapid growth.
Right.
I mean, that by far, we have traffic issues, we have flooding issues, we have all these issues related to our rapid growth. What I would like to do personally to alleviate at least some of those issues is I want to focus on traffic, and I want to. There's three things really that I want to look into specifically on the traffic issue. Number one, their DOT is doing a study right now on the possibility of building a bridge from the bottom of Highway 87 across over to the island, 4-lane bridge. If we can keep that study moving, once it gets complete, if that project looks good, if we can do whatever we can to keep that project moving forward, I think that would be a great benefit for this area.
Right.
The other thing that's in the works right now is the possibility of the state taking over the Garcon Point Bridge. I really haven't heard a lot about where that's at right now, but I would really like to look into that and see if we can go ahead and encourage that to get done and open up that corridor between the north end and the south end of the county, take away the toll and make that, not only a good, kind of connect the two ends of the county, but also take away that toll booth for, any emergency purposes, things like that.
Absolutely.
The other thing I'd like to look at as far as roads are concerned is the possibility of maybe the state taking over some of our county roads, because our county roads right now, there's a tremendous backlog on maintenance and repair and improvement, and if left to itself, the county, it's going to take them decades, if not generations, to get everything done that needs to be done. At the same time, we're growing.
Yep.
So those are the three things I would like to look into to get to help with that situation.
Yeah. Very, very good answer right there. Speaking of that growth right here, you knew this one was coming when you just spoke on it. Like I said, these are your questions, guys. Where are you at on all the new subdivisions that are constantly popping up all over? Now, I know that's not necessarily you, but this is what they want to know, so gotta ask it.
Right. I mean, the Land Development Code, which the county commission is responsible for, is the main guidebook, so to speak, for those things. Again, I think what we need to do is we need to the legislative part of government needs to work with the county part of government. One of the main things that, of course, the legislative position does is it tries to funnel state funds from the state to the county,
right,
so that they can work on things like infrastructure. And I know there's a lot of concern about the number of houses being put in. Again, that I don't know that there would be a whole lot of influence from the legislative from a state representative, right, point, but I plan on working with the county commissioners very closely and trying to get them everything that they need to help that situation.
Very well, very well. Highway 90 and Highway 98 are all major concerns at the moment, and citizens want to know, what would you do to help remedy these issues on the state level?
Of course. So working closely with DOT and the TPO, Transportation Planning Organization, between Alabama and Florida. There's right now, as we speak, they're starting the project of widening Highway 98 around the Gulf Breeze area, and just making sure that those projects stay on course and get done as quickly as possible.
Awesome. A big issue has been FPL, Florida Power and Light. Citizens want to know, what would you do to help them?
Yeah. So, as most everybody knows, that FP&L, they have to go through an approval process for a rate increase through the state. What I would like to do is I would like to look into that process and see, this recent rate increase, why was it approved, and what justification was used to increase those rates. I mean, some of them I've seen rates have doubled in some cases. I mean, that to me, that just doesn't raises a red flag,
right,
a big question mark. So I want to, when I get on that level, I want to look into that process and see how it came about.
Absolutely. And that right there was an issue that kind of came up out of nowhere. Nobody saw that coming. And
right,
you talk about catching folks off guard. Good night. What are your feelings on the border issue and how Florida plays in that?
Our borders need to be protected, bottom line. We need to have border security. Florida obviously doesn't have a border with another country. However, we have a very long coastline that is in essence a border, because a lot of people will infiltrate Florida that way. We need to make sure all of our Coast Guard and Border Patrol, as far as water patrols, are secure and secure our water borders.
Absolutely. This one's a pretty long one, but here we go. If there is a way, would you be willing to push for additional training for law enforcement, firefighters, and EMT on how to properly deal with citizens with certain disabilities, such as how to work with diabetics and autistics, and possibly a way such as a sticker on their car window signifying they have such a disability so they can be recognized quickly?
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. I think that first responders should have training to deal with people with mental and physical disabilities, and those people that have those should have some form of identification, so that when first responders show up, they are, they know how to deal with them. So I think that's a great idea.
Absolutely. Do you support Recall Florida?
Yes,
if
I do.
so, why or why not?
I absolutely support Recall Florida because I feel like the more power you give individual citizens to hold their county officials responsible for their actions, the better. I mean, bottom line, I think the citizens need to have as much power as possible.
Absolutely. Are you in favor of constitutional carry?
Yes, I am.
Alrighty. What, if anything, do you think you as a representative can do about foreign entities buying our land and businesses? They are literally buying us out to destroy us, yet our community leaders, state and federal, continue to gladly take their money.
I don't, to be honest with you, I don't know what can be done on a state level. I think that that's more of a federal level, something like that could be done. It is a concern when you have foreign entities, won't name any specific countries, but when you have foreign entities coming in, buying large chunks of American land, that is a concern.
Absolutely.
Again, I don't know on the state level how, what can be done, but that's definitely a federal issue to look at.
Absolutely. Are you a big business corporate conservative that thinks it is okay to saddle the citizens with monopolies for profit off of basic living necessities such as FP&L and a Waste Pro?
All right. Big corporate companies need to be held accountable. Being in business for so long, I know how corporations think. And the bottom line is you have a CEO of a corporation who is accountable to the board and ultimately accountable to his shareholders.
Right.
And his number one job is to produce profit for the shareholders. If he doesn't do that, then he's out of a job.
Right.
So to me, a lot of, unless a lot of times because of those dynamics, those corporations will have a tendency to put profit above the needs of people and above the betterment of, or the good of their customers.
Right.
So am I a big fan of corporations? Not necessarily, but I do think that they need to be held accountable, and corporations such as FP&L and Waste Pro that are supposed to be serving the citizens of our district need to be held accountable by the state.
Absolutely. We the people is a term of ownership. What does it mean to you, and how then will you apply that in your role as a representative?
Yeah. So I like the term "we the people." And the way I would apply it to my role as a representative, the people are the ones that I am representing. I am a servant of the people. And my responsibility as a servant of the people would be to be out there in touch with the people. I think that politicians who have the idea that they can remain up in a lofty office and do all their work from a position of authority, not in touch with the people, I think that they lose touch with reality. What I envision my role as a representative being is getting out as often as possible and mingling with the people, hearing what their concerns are, getting input from them, and actually being their representative and being someone who is accessible and in touch with them.
I love that answer. Love it. Congress currently has a low approval rating. In your role as a representative, what actions will you take that will restore confidence in our American form of government?
Yeah, I think that question really dovetails with the last one, because people, I think, have lost confidence in their government and in their representatives because they feel like they're out of touch.
Yep.
Their representatives don't understand them. Their representatives maybe have their own interests in mind and not the interests of the people. What I would do to restore that confidence, again, is to be in touch with the people, to hear their concerns. If somebody calls me, I'll return their phone call. If somebody has a concern, I'll listen to the concern. and do whatever it is I can do to help that situation and help that individual.
Absolutely. And I can speak from experience. Every time I've called you, you've always called back. So you're a man of your word on that. Do you agree with the end justifies the means in the decision-making process?
That's a very vague or general question. I would just have to answer that as, it would depend on the specific situation.
Gotcha.
I would have to have a specific example to answer that.
Gotcha. Being a state representative is very time consuming. How are you going to balance the responsibilities and spend months at a time in Tallahassee away from your home and business?
How am I going to dedicate the time to that? All my kids are grown. They're out of the office. They're out of the house. My wife and I are empty nesters. My business is at a place right now that it requires very little of my time. I have very competent people that have been with me for years and years, running my business for me. My son is one of them.
Right.
And I can leave the business at will and just check in with him. I have a system set up of reports that my managers give me every day, so I can manage the health of the business through the reports. And if there's anything that needs attention, I can call attention, have whoever is responsible for that particular thing or area, and have them take care of it. So I don't have anything holding me down. I can spend months at a time away from my business, and it'll just keep right on going, just like it always has.
Awesome. What is the first thing you plan to do with your win?
The very first thing I plan to do when I win is to call Jayer Williamson and arrange a meeting, because I want to make sure that there is a successful passing of the baton.
Absolutely.
Between him and I. I want to know what projects he has in the works that he hasn't been able to finish. I want to know what he maybe wanted to accomplish that he didn't get to. I'm going to ask him to introduce me to as many of the contacts that he has there in Tallahassee. I would like to interview his staff and see if there's any of his staff members that maybe would like to stay on and continue to serve. So that would, on day one, that's what I would do.
Awesome. So basically, continue the work and keep it flowing.
Continue the work and keep it flowing.
I love it. What are your priorities for your district?
Priorities for my district? Well, again, it kind of dovetails into what we've already talked about.
Yep.
The priorities would be infrastructure, and under that would be transportation. I really want to work on the transportation issue here and see if we can improve it.
Awesome. We all know there is a culture war currently ongoing in this nation. What do you feel are some of the biggest issues in that war we are currently in?
Well, you hear a lot about critical race theory. That's one of the biggest ones, and that goes, that's right down into the goes right down into the school system. Not too long ago in the news, they had a big thing about all of the textbooks that Florida rejected. I was actually proud to hear about that. Because it gives me comfort to know that somebody is looking through each and every textbook to make sure that we don't have a hidden liberal agenda being perpetrated through the textbooks into our school system. The other culture war thing that we're dealing with, is the what the liberals called the don't say gay, but what they've done is they've actually spun that, because there really is no reason whatsoever we should be teaching our early grade school children about anything sexual, period, whether it be orientation or whatever. Absolutely. That's for the parents to do. It's not to be in the school system. And so that's one of the big those two. I think the critical race theory and the school system are two of the biggest issues there.
I agree 100% on that one right there. Why should someone living in the northern end of the county vote for you to be their representative when you're down from the south end?
Well, so in the northern end of the county, we have a lot of agriculture. By nature of my business, I'm an agricultural guy. As a matter of fact, I had a very good long discussion with a local farmer up there in Jay yesterday morning, and we sat and talked for about 2 hours, and we were talking the same language, because a lot of the issues he deals with in commercial farming, I actually deal with in my business treating lawns. Right. They're not exactly the same. I'm not growing a crop, but we still have a lot of the same issues. So I'm familiar with what's referred to as IFAS, the Institute for Food, and it's the University of Florida's Extension Service. Okay. To the farmers and to the agricultural community. Very familiar with that. I visited the research center at Jay a number of times and toured that facility. Speaking of farming, I came from Iowa, and my grandfather actually owned a Ford tractor dealership. Oh, okay. There in Iowa. So farming is in my background, and agriculture is in my business. So I'm very familiar with all those things.
So you're going to fall right in with it and keep on trucking.
Absolutely.
If you support the Second Amendment, can you tell me what 2 firearms you own?
Well, I can show you one in my pocket right now.
Hey, there you go.
So yeah, I carry every day. It's like every day when I leave the house: wallet, phone, gun. Right. All those 3 things. So what I carry, I carry a Ruger LCP Max, and the reason I carry that is I like the idea. I like the combination of it being compact but still having a 12+1 capacity. And it's a 380, but where I'm at with concealed carry is, if it's not comfortable, I'm probably not going to carry it all the time. So I would rather have it comfortable, have a little less firepower, but know it's with me all the time.
Absolutely.
So I've got that. Before I got that, the very first carry gun I got was a Glock 45 double stack. Oh, okay. And that was like carrying a kettlebell on my belt. It was not comfortable at all, and I just kind of felt like I was leaning to one side the whole day. So that's why I downsized, because it just wasn't working for me personally. Just a little background on my gun history. I actually started collecting guns back when I was about 12 years old. Okay. And my parents, I would get my parents to buy them for me. And when I was 13 years old, I actually owned a Colt Python 357 that I had my dad purchase for me.
Hey, absolutely.
So, I've been around guns all my life, and have enjoyed them and have probably 12, 15 at home right now, I think.
So it's safe to say the Second Amendment's going to be fine with you.
Safe to say the Second Amendment is going to be fine.
Awesome. All right, where are you on incorporation of Navarre?
Incorporation of Navarre needs to be up to the people. Absolutely. Jayer has always said that if there was a referendum with 60% plus one people in Navarre community wanting to incorporate, that he would initiate a bill to do that. I think that's reasonable. I think that it needs to be a solid majority like that, and if that's what the people want, then that's what I'll do.
Man of the people. Yep. If citizens are interested in you as a candidate, how can they get to know you better?
There's actually several ways to get to know me. They can go to my personal Facebook page. I have over 10 years of posts there, and I post every day, and you can kind of really get a feel for me. I've written a couple books. You can go to my website, voteskipOrth.com, and look through my website. And if you'd like to request a couple of the books I've written, you're more than welcome. I'll be happy to send them to you, no charge, just so you can get to know me. I always welcome telephone calls or Facebook messages or emails that we can communicate and discuss issues or answer questions. As a matter of fact, just tell you a little story from yesterday. I got a very well written, informative Facebook message from a Navarre High School senior.
Okay.
And she wrote me and told me of all of her political involvement and how she was wanting to, after high school, get involved in the political process, and had looked at all the candidates in this race and asked me some very intelligent questions about, what my stances were on different things. And I loved it.
Absolutely.
I love those. I love that interaction. So I'm just in the process of answering her, and anything like that, they can get to know me.
Especially showing that's a good sign right there, showing that our youth are wanting to get involved and do the right things.
You know what? Yeah, and she was very upfront with me. She said, I won't be 18 until after the election, but I want to know, and that's fine. I absolutely love that interaction. And I don't. You know what? Whether she can vote for me or not is not the issue. The issue is, let's take someone like that's interested and just give them everything that we can give them to encourage them to be more active.
Give them that positive influence to make them want to keep going and stay
Absolutely.
Involved.
Yeah,
that is what is so important, because if they get the wrong impression, get a negative, maybe they push away and never care anymore, then we lose another great person. So.
Yeah.
Very good job with that right there.
Exactly.
Last one, guys. Why should the citizens of Northwest Florida send you to Tallahassee, and where do your loyalties lie?
Why should people send me to Tallahassee? What I say is, I have ability and availability. My abilities to do this job is, number one, I built a multi-million-dollar business from scratch. I've started a nonprofit organization from scratch 2 years ago that is currently serving women who have been traumatized through sexual exploitation and trafficking. I planted a church in 2001 and pastored it for 7 years. I've raised my 6 kids here, went through this, they've gone, homeschooled them and the school system. What I do is I can take a vision and I can turn it into reality. That's ability. That's the ability that I have. And number 2, I have availability. As we talked a few minutes ago, I have nothing holding me back. My kids are out of the house. My business runs itself. I have the available time to dedicate to the people of this district, to serve them as their state representative.
Tell me a little bit more about that nonprofit. I was gonna get to that, but you brought it up. Tell me a little bit of how it came to be and what it is you guys do.
Sure. Well, about 10 years ago, I watched a documentary and was introduced to the tragedy of human trafficking. And from that time, I just started studying everything that I could about human trafficking. I would read several memoirs of survivors of human trafficking. I looked up organizations, statistics, and the more I read and the more I studied, the more my heart just broke. And I just really felt I had to do something. One of the things I did was I wrote a book on human trafficking, which is available again on my website, voteskiporth.com. If you want a copy of that book, just go to the website and request one. I'll send one to you for free. But it was always a dream of mine to start a nonprofit organization that would actually serve survivors. And a couple years ago, my business was actually got to a place to where it could support funding an organization. So I fund the organization out of my business. And I hired an executive director, and thank you. We have a couple other staff members now. And what we do is we provide mental health therapy, counseling for women who have been traumatized through sexual exploitation and trafficking for reduced or no cost. And we also have a shelter that we provide. We call it the Refuge. And we can house up to 3 women who are exiting the life and trying to get established. It's kind of a transitional housing until they can get established and live on their own.
Right. That is absolutely awesome. Years ago, when I was in the police academy, that was a big thing in the mid 2000s, the 2010s, and especially, you wouldn't think about it, but it is very big in this area.
It is. Unfortunately, it is. And you know what? Let me just kind of add this in as a footnote. Is that would be another thing that I would really want to focus on as a state representative, is that one of the biggest areas of human trafficking in the state of Florida, and actually it's all over the country, but it's the illegitimate massage parlors. They are one of the biggest perpetrators of human trafficking, and I want to close the loopholes in the law, whatever there may be, that allow them to operate with impunity, with pretty much impunity. And really put a squeeze on that organization, that whole thing.
I love that.
Yeah.
If people want to get a hold of you, what's your phone number? You don't mind giving it to
Sure,
them?
absolutely. My phone number is 850-816-9932. You can email me at skiporth@gmail.com. It's all one word, no spaces, no lines, just skiporth@gmail. And either that or message me through Facebook. There's several ways to get a hold of me.
And of course, the website, voteskiporth.com. Guys, it has been an absolute joy and an honor to sit here with Mr. Skip Orth, candidate for Florida House 3. Check him out. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, we're going to put everything you need to get a hold of him up there. Give him a call. He will be glad to talk with you. Thank you, Skip.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
I appreciate it, Tommy.
Absolutely.
All right.
All right, guys. Toodles.
We them high.